Hello, welcome everybody. As you've probably noticed, Interfilm this year has a focus country like every year. And this year's focus country is Hungary, which is, of course, one reason. We are doing this panel today. It's focus on Hungary. But also, apart from being a focus country, Hungary is politically and in filmmaking a very, very special country. And why that is, I'm pretty sure those amazing people on the stage here can tell you more about. And I want to introduce to you our amazing moderator, Pani Neder. And yeah, Pani, the stage is yours, and of course, all of yours. Enjoy.
Okay, it's working, right? Yes. Okay, super. So, hi everybody, herzlich willkommen. Sorry, first of all, I want to introduce our guests. Levente Kölcsey, Hungarian filmmaker, who received her diploma at the University for Theatre and Film in 2017. And you can see his short film right now after our panel discussion. And currently he's developing his first feature film. Attila Gigor, Hungarian filmmaker, former teacher and class leader of our former university. I can say our university because we are all former students from there. And he's having currently her master class at the Free SFS Society with Ildikó Enyedi. No?
No, I used to have a class with Ildikó at the university. Right now, we have a class with Zoltán Nagy and Mihály Svechtje.
Sorry, I checked it yesterday on the internet, and I saw you are making with.
No. We started. It's a yes, and too many things are happening at the same time because we are starting a series of workshops with Ildikó together at the Free SFE. So that's why we mixed up probably.
Okay, yeah. So that's the correct answer. László Upor, dramaturg, translator, and he has been a teacher for 35 years for the SFA. And maybe you can tell this story later in more details, but you were the last kind of leader of the university. I mean, voted by the Senate, but it has been so unofficial, or it remained unofficial. So I don't know how would you describe, your last position at the SFA, because it's kind of complicated?
I was a legal leader of the university, but never officially appointed rector. But that's a long story, so I won't get into this.
Yeah, but László will present us at this flip chart, the history, for a better understanding what exactly happened to the SFA. And Dorka Vermes, Hungarian filmmaker as well. You can see her short film in the same block as Levente's. And she began her studies in 2019 at SFA. And now you can get your diploma through the Vienna Film University. And it's a very complicated situation as well. So you can describe it. How was it for you, to having a break and not getting your diploma, and how can you finish your studies and make your own film? And I'm Pani Neder. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm a stage director who have studied at the university in Budapest back then. And my first question is to László. If you could describe shortly, if you can, by your drawings, what exactly happened to our university chronologically?
Sziasztok. Good afternoon once again. We decided that the boring part is mine, so I will give you a short history lesson, and to make you laugh, I will do some stupid drawings. So we will leave some trace. Our little university is really, really small, There was a community of about 500 people, students and teaching staff all together. It was called the University of Theatre and Film Arts. The short in Hungarian is SFE, with a history of 150 years. And it was all happy, shiny. For 150 years, no problems at all, no lack of funds, etc., etc. Obviously, it's not true, loads of problems, but we were a happy community, creating art and teaching, etc., etc. In February 2020, the first clouds appeared on the sunny sky when we were told that the government decided to push our university through a forced transformation to a mock private university, a mock foundation. I call it mock foundation, mock private, because the university, as well as many other universities since then in Hungary, they still run on public money, but without the public control. There are boards of trustees appointed to control the life of the university, and the board members are appointed by the closest circle of the present prime minister, and the board members are appointed for life. In other words, there is no public control over the control of the university. That's one very serious problem. The second is that these boards of the foundations are given very substantial rights to interfere with the actual life of the university, with the academic life, which is very, very visibly and obviously the violation of the university autonomy. So the whole community of our small university stood up, united, and protested and tried to defend our rights, our autonomy, etc., etc. And for about half a year, we went on fighting united against the government rule, etc., etc. And once we got it in writing that our autonomy is actually violated, and it's not just a nightmare, it's not just our fear, but it's written on the paper of a law that all the substantial rights of the Senate, the name of the parliament of the university, all the substantial rights of the Senate are given to the board that is appointed, as I said, by the prime minister, etc., etc., for life. So it's given to the board. The leaders and the Senate of the university resigned on the last day of August 22. These months, this half-year long period, was all about A, legal issues, B, protests from the side of our community, and what's very important, loads of very spectacular actions from the side of mainly the students of the university, supported by the teaching staff. But basically the teaching staff and the leaders were protesting in the official way, and the students organized all these visual and spectacular events, raising loads of media and public attention and support, which is very important because on the last day of August 2020, the leaders resigned, and the same night the students occupied the building, the central building of the university, and kept it under blockade for 71 days. Until November the 9th, I think, 11th. So it was still united, one community, teachers, staff, employees of the university, and the students. The students led loads of actions, and I think Attila and Dorka and Levente will tell you more about those months, those weeks, those very, very active and exciting weeks in resistance. But then, due to the COVID situation, eventually they had to leave the building. They had to give up or take away the blockade. They said that we are not finishing the blockade. We are taking it away with us. Once the semester was safely and securely done in January, about half of the teaching staff and half of the students, a bit more than half of them, left the university and formed our society, not SFA, but Free SFA. And this is January 2021. So all the students and teachers who left the old university, which is about half of the previous university, we went on working together, students and teachers together, with the help and collaboration of 5 European universities. These 5 universities from Germany, Austria, Switzerland and Poland, they adopted our courses, they adopted our students, so the students are officially inscribed at 5 universities in Europe, and our courses are credited by those 5 universities. We call this program Emergency Exit, and for this program we won the European Citizen Prize. We were awarded last week in Brussels, in fact. And this is where we are now. This is called Emergency Exit. This is Free SFA. That's basically us and another 200 people. And I think it's time to talk about the details, but I suppose this little massive drawing will give you the context of the whole series of events. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, then I continue with that questions. I mean, with the occupation days. So if you could tell me, I mean, how was it? Have you been there? I mean, for like 70-something days or?
Yeah, I've been there with my class. I'm actually at Attila's class right now. It's kind of hard to answer to that question. Could you specify?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, how much like organizational work was it? But because I mean the international and the worldwide resonance you got. I mean, it's just an amazing job. And how many students have been involved? How many teachers? And how did you get it? I mean, for more than 2 months long, the occupation days and this international resistance.
Yeah, it was organized. Very much so, and we founded like different kinds of work groups who were responsible for different kind of tasks during the occupation. So that's how we could seem organized from the outside. And to be honest, that was really energy consuming. So and I don't know, maybe we were 2,000 of students, but I don't know if we have like 2,200. So I don't know if we have like exact numbers of that. Maybe half of the teachers were with us, but I don't know if we put that in numbers at any point, to be honest. Because of it was very time consuming and energy consuming to keep up that kind of organization and stuff. I don't know how long we would have been able to go on if we didn't have to leave the building because of COVID. So I don't know. It was emotional roller coaster, I think.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was extremely tiring, but a very, very beautiful period. Well, as a teacher, I personally had some inner conflict with it, because the propaganda media, the government propaganda, kept saying that us teachers are keeping the students in front of us as shields, and this is some agenda that we are doing so we can keep ourselves in power and keep the big money that we're getting as salaries at that university. And needless to say, that's all bull crap. But in the first couple of days, the students themselves weren't really sure if they want to include the teachers in the occupation or not. Since I was also a DLA student at the time at the university, so I sneaked into the student forums from the beginning, and I wasn't sure how much part we should take as teachers in this, because the students were really doing a great job. So in the first couple of weeks, I just did the jobs that nobody really liked to do, like standing guard, passing on the microphone in big forums, and sometimes cleaning the rooms, which wouldn't be clean otherwise. But everybody, that was a beautiful thing about it. We wanted to instead of when we didn't have a Senate anymore, they had to build up a new way of decision making. So sort of how is it called, the base democracy? Rootgrass democracy, and it was really extremely hard to start a forum at 8 and still not getting done, but by 2 a.m. each night. It was at the same time very tiring, but I had a sort of feeling and new teachings about democracy that I never had in the first 40 years of my life. So I learned an enormous amount of things from these 20-some-year-old people who were trying to build a community and succeeded big time. And for example, Levente was a big help for us technically many times. So I don't know, how was it for you?
So at that time, I wasn't a student in SFA. I was just following what's happening around the university, and it was really uplifting from the outside. And even though I went always in there, I knew that it's not my story now, or at least I shouldn't be step inside. But then at one point in the university, they switched off the electricity or the internet, something like this. And then I was, because there was, okay, so they occupied the university, and there was always guarding in front of the university. And then old students can apply that, okay, I would like to guard. And then you were know better what's going on inside. And I was guarding, and then somebody told, okay, they switched off the electricity, or they switched off the internet. And then I said, okay, this is something what I can do now, because probably everybody is so messed up what's going on. So I started to call production offices, and then yeah, it's like in that day we organized. It wasn't just me; it was obviously from the. So Attila is also brought routers. Peter brought routers. So we also had this kind of. There are a lot of people wanted to help to the university, so I had these messenger groups where anonymous people, or at least people who I didn't know, wanted to help, and they asked how to help, and then they, I don't know, bought SIM cards and bought routers, and then I take it to the university and then set it up. So other than that, it was what probably they experienced from inside, an uplifting thing. In the outside, it was kind of the same. Because you have to know, in Hungary, it's really rare that you see people gathering around for a cause. So it's not like a union. In Hungary, there is not really like unions, and it's looked like a real massive union who says, okay, we are not let you to do this until you are not do what we want from you to do. Obviously, they didn't do what SFA wanted to do, but still that they could have these 2 months together or more. But the occupation was about 2 months. You could sense something really strong and new thing in Hungary, which was the most powerful thing, I think, from this whole. This is what I could see in the outside, that there are people gathering around, grab their hands, and they say that we are together and we are not let you to do this with us. And yeah.
I'm also a mathematician, if there's anyone who doesn't know that, and I just want to make it more simple for ourselves. So when Levente said they switched the electricity off and they blockaded the building, it's two different them, obviously. So the situation was there was an officially appointed new leadership of the university, and this new leadership was not accepted by the community. So the community was one thing, one day, and the other day, the real day, as opposed to us, was the new leadership. And there was this parallel thing. The new leadership wanted to make us do things, and we wouldn't do things, of course. And I suggest ourselves to make a few categories. That the blockade was obviously some kind of special democracy, but there was also the education, and then the spectacular actions, which I think is a very, very important part of the whole thing. And I would suggest us talk about the spectacular actions, because that was instrumental in raising attention and sympathy from huge circles of the society. And that's what made this whole movement unique. What happened to the university, what happened to the community wasn't unique. It happens to everyone and every institutions in Hungary. Our response was unique. And in this unique response, these actions took a very important part. And of course, the special democracy that worked inside the community, and obviously our fight to go on with our education in spite of the etc., etc. So I mean, I would suggest to explore on those.
Yeah, and do you have any comments on this? I mean, on this special focus, just like I told?
As Dorka said earlier, we worked in work groups during the occupation, and there was a work group for these kind of theatrical events, and they were very, very quick. It was a very, very quick responding team. Whenever happened something, they organized. Like, for example, it took 1 week for them to organize a demonstration which had like 10,000 people passing on our universal Carta, one person to the other, from our university to the Parliament building, which is like, I don't know how many kilometers, but it was a long line. And took a couple of hours, but they kept organizing these type of events, which were very immersive and showed something to the Hungarian society. You have to know that our society is pretty lethargic. I mean, that was so Hungarian of me to start talking about how tiring it was. But at the same time, it was beautiful, really, really. Like, people kept coming to the university. We had so much food, for example, which they gave us each day, that we couldn't eat it most of the time, and many times we had to pass it on to some homeless shelters and stuff. So it showed something not only for us, but for the whole Hungarian society, the thinking part of it at least, that there is a way to say no to this type of authoritative governments. And the action work group was a huge part of this.
And Laszlo, are you just drawing? I mean, what Attila has described, or
no? I don't want to speak instead of anyone else, but just very. It's really important that the society got very simple and strong visual symbols from our society, like this symbol, the palm, and then this red and white stripe that was the actual blockade in front of the building. So that became a visual symbol used everywhere, all around the country, as a sign of sympathy and solidarity. And this is a wonderful, wonderful drawing of our building. I suppose everyone knows what that is. This is the entrance, and above the entrance there's a roof like 4 meters, 5 meters above street level. And from day one of the blockade, the people were standing on guard on this rooftop. So people gathered on the street to watch who is on guard, and high intellectuals of the Hungarian society, artists from everywhere, including, of course, our teachers, etc., etc., were standing on guard from early morning till late night. For us, this is all natural. We've lived through it, but for people who haven't been there, they should know how very, very powerful these images were and became in the public eye.
Yeah, and it was kind of a performative act, I would say, on the roof, because there were like several groups, former classes, or I don't know, the costume designers are guarding for like 8 hours, then directors, dramaturgs, filmmakers, whatever. So it was beautiful. I mean, how
the building itself became a place for pilgrimage.
Yeah, or like very emotional musical farewell songs or parties for former teachers, and yeah, it was highly emotional. And regarding the former professors, I mean, they were several waves, I mean, you too, how many professors just quit their job or kept resistance? And could you describe this kind of waves and your decisions as former teachers?
Well, yeah, it was very hard decisions also from the teachers' sides. Which point should you resign if you're in a situation like this? Many people said at day one that they are quitting. Other people were trying to maintain their positions. It's really, really hard to leave a class of students to this type of new leadership. So in this sense, we were quite lucky with Ildikó, because our class finished just before the occupation began. So the only decisions we as professors had to make is whether we want to start our MA class or not. And we decided that if this goes through, it's impossible for us to set our foot into these buildings anymore and to be in conversation with these people. You have to know that they're without complaining, they made very, very strong and disgusting accusations against us. Many times in Lati's case, for example, personal attacks or general attacks about calling our students communists, and really, really disgusting attacks began. And it was really hard to maintain our calmness. Many times I didn't manage, but we were sure with Ildikó that we cannot teach like this. So, and also I was involved in an actors class. I was supposed to teach film acting in a new actors class. For half a year, we were trying to give them guidelines. If this and this happens, then we are starting the classes. Obviously, it didn't happen since one of our main points was to reinstall the Senate in the university, which they obviously did not. So for me, it was pretty obvious when all the options ran out, I just couldn't stay there. And that's when the SFS Society, Free SFS Society, came to life, and most of us continued to do our work there.
Yeah, and that's going to be my next question. I mean, when came up the idea of the Free SFS Society, and how did you start it, and how is it going right now, and what are your goals with that?
That's a question for me?
For you too, because you are both founders of the Free SFS Society, and yeah. You too, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just answer quickly. On my part, with Dorcas class, our main goal right now is this is the last semester in our in this type of education, and with the great help of the Film Academy Wien, we already have a contract in place. Dorca and the other guys will be getting their diplomas from Vienna, which we are doing everything we can to provide the best circumstances for that, which right now means we are working hard to get some money in place so they manage to shoot their diploma films almost or maybe in better conditions that they could have in their former university.
And could you tell me please more about the Free SFS Society, because you had to leave the building, I mean our old building, and you got a place at the former building of the Central European University.
I will, but before we get there, this is my next image. People asked us how could we keep up the resistance and how could this movement become more influential and more visible than other movements in Hungary. And I think this is the answer. The government helped us become famous and popular because during the months of resistance, the public learned loads of fresh, nice, smiling faces, serious but smiling faces of students with no agenda except for fighting for the autonomy of the university, and of course faces of teachers as well. And facing them was the highly subsidized, arrogant propaganda, government propaganda. So that propaganda, that cultural war helped us make our case more clear than ever before, because it was very obvious in the eye of the public that these are the victims and these are the aggressors. Now, for the society, we knew that we have to leave the institution. There was no way in staying. I mean, we could have stayed and we could still get our salaries, but obviously there was no way in staying. So because the university couldn't join to another university in totality, because there is no similar university anywhere in Europe, we decided to find a contact with those different universities, and different parts of our old community joined those European universities. But we decided to keep our community together and work students and professors together. Wonderful. We are all free, except we are very poor. We have no infrastructure, we have no funds to pay the teachers, etc., etc. That's when Central European University, which is another institution that was chased out of Hungary and had this wonderful complex of a university in the middle of Budapest, they decided to help us, and they do help us with student accommodation, which is very important. The students are wonderfully accommodated for a very, very cheap fee, I mean very low fee, and they also provide us with rooms, which is important, classrooms, and we do have classrooms in other institutions. So in other ways, we put together a mosaic or a Tetris kind of thing. One thing is here and one thing is there, so we don't have a home as such, but we can manage to live, and we are trying to get more funds. There is some fund coming from here, some fund coming from there, but this is really what we don't have. With the partner universities, we have long-term plans. Today, emergency exit is the major thing, because we couldn't let our students not to finish their studies, but the collaboration with those European universities will not finish when this diploma saving program is over. We have been already in conversation with those universities, and trying to build something that never existed before, some translocal, transnational, transcultural collaboration, where the collaboration is not a side effect, but it's actually the core and the base of our work together. It's too early to tell you about what exactly it would look like, but the aim is to create something that is as independent of national governments as possible. And we have very, very high hopes in building something that we would otherwise not build if we were let free as we were before. Then we would never have the idea of building this international thing. So we should be very grateful to our government.
And at the Free SFA Society, I mean, how is it about the current education? Because I know the theatrical part better. I mean, that you started new special performance classes. And how is it for the film education? Because I think film needs more technical support. So could you start it, I mean, in a proper way like before, or how is it? Yeah, it's an open question.
Film-wise, we are not going to be able to start new classes just yet because of what you mentioned, because it's really consuming technical-wise and money-wise. And we don't really know what to do with us, to be honest, because we don't have funds for the diploma films yet, and there is a BA classes besides us. So about film classes, they are not gonna get like started in a near future. But on the other hand, there is going to be a workshop for cinematographers, I think, with Marcel Rév and Mátyás Erdély, and who is the third one? Yeah, Gergő Pálos. So I think that's a success. So yeah, but right now that's all we have film-wise.
I'm a bit more optimistic than Dorka, which is not something I say very often. We have many goodwill around us, and just like Laszlo said, to see this kind of collaboration, European collaboration, it's really uplifting. We have so many people working inside and outside Hungary, professionals whom I really hope once we can name without thinking that they might get in trouble if we name them. But there are a lot of goodwill around us, and I really hope that the film courses can be soon started just as well, just like the theater courses.
All right, and the next important topic is the current state of filmmaking in Hungary, and I think it's very complicated and special to describe. So Levente, if you could describe, I mean, how is it right now in Hungary? I mean, from where can you get financial support, or how is the applying system in Hungary? How can you get funded for your films?
Yeah, so I think it's a general problem in Hungary, like not just in a film part, but in every aspect in life, that it's really centralized. Everything is really centralized. There is a big head in the top, and he says, like, you know, like our big guy telling what to do, and the little guys doing what they do. So it's basically the similar thing in the film industry. There is one institution where you can go for short films, feature films, documentaries. It used to be two, so there used to be the TV and used to be the National Film Fund. Now it's about 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, they said, okay, no, we should do it like one institution. So you only have this opportunity. If you have an idea, a feature film, short film, whatever, you have to go to this place. Obviously, this place is it's hard to find a way who is supported and why. So nowadays, mainly people supported who has these great ideas about our great Hungarian history, about great heroes who saved this country from someone. But as a young filmmaker, as me, I applied several times, never got funded. So, for example, this short film, which will be screened here, it's made by. I used to work as an AD in big international productions, and I worked in Terminator, and I earned a lot of money. And then I put this money, and my producer also gathered some money. So we made this film for 2 days, and it's the same with my feature film. I am in a very well-known workshop, Torino Film Lab, which used to be a big thing in Hungary and usually in Europe, everywhere who is developing its story. It's usually kind of a thing, but it's not a thing at home. They doesn't really interested in it. So, what should I say?
Well, basically, the film financing in Hungary always had many problems, but yes, I think Levent is right. Right now, it's worse than ever in a sense that if you're with the flower and not in the tank, you're basically not getting funded.
Yeah, but I don't want to say that this is a unique thing. So, as far as I know, before this era, when it was a left government, it was a kind of a same. So it's always whose party is there, their people were going to get funded. And this country is divided by in the beginning. So we can start it from the beginning of the 20th century, 19th century. There was always the city, and there was always the country, and there was always opposite, and they couldn't. And there was a great moment when the Soviets left the country, and then at that point they should have an agreement, but they didn't, so they kept arguing, and then they kept this kind of thinking, and when this era came in the front, they said, okay, now it's our turn, and this is not your turn. So I guess I am just only a victim. I don't want to be kind of, but it's okay. I mean, I'm not frustrated, and I mean, I would like to make films. I planning to make another short with my money, but this is how it is. So, so I know that this is not my fault. It's much more about my father's fault, and they should have an agreement. It's not. I mean, I can do my best, but it's until this divided country is not agreeing with each other that I don't care that you are in the right, I don't care you are in the left, you are human, I am human, maybe we are think different, but still we are some kind of have equal rights. Until it's not happening, then this will going to be like this, I don't know how long. And then we have to, my main problem as a young person that there are a lot of Hungarian production companies who are quite famous, and I don't know why they just don't, why they're not saying that, okay, we are not continuing this. So all of the production companies, the successful ones, the less successful, everybody's adapting all of these kind of systems. And this is what I'm not understanding, because I can go in front and say that this is not good, but I am a little fish in this big ocean. But why the big people not going there and says that this is not good? This is what I'm not understanding, and I haven't found an answer yet.
I would just argue a little bit with that it was always like this. I don't think so. I've been applying for money for the previous and the previous film funds we had. Yeah, there were problems, but I never seen this many Hungarian filmmakers winning A-list festivals all around the world, thinking about doing no budget or low budget movies. I have never personally experienced if you openly start to work with Free SFA, they more or less openly will tell you to not even try to apply for funds. I personally was removed from a film where I was working for years, and they told the producers that the film will get funded if they replace the director, which they did. So these things are very much alive and happening. If you are associated with something like the Free SFA Society, you don't have any chance anymore to work from government money, and that's the only way to shoot films properly in Hungary. Otherwise, you have the chance of doing no budget or low budget films.
But do you still apply for it? Yeah.
I don't agree with Levente either, because I think it has never been before that people with no qualification getting money for making films, or people who don't even have any kind of connection to films, or didn't make any films before. So this was not the case before, and this is a very new thing, and it's really changing the picture.
Yeah, and I think so are the topics as well, because as you mentioned, it became so. I mean, the supported topics very historical, national, so folk things, and I think it's it has changed a lot as well.
Yeah. I know stories that without qualifications, Magic Boys, if you remember this beautiful film.
No, I think the tendency is important. You may or may not agree, but what Levente described is really, it's very true that all parts of the society, economy, cultural, health, service, everything, all parts of the society work like a pyramid. And on the top of the pyramid, there's always a person who is most of all loyal to the present government, and that is more important than their production, their qualities, their talents, etc., etc. And whatever you think of the previous years and previous decades and previous centuries, it has never been this strong tendency that loyalty is that counts. And if it's about the arts, literature, performing arts, film, etc., etc., it's become, after decades of the so-called cultural war, it became very, very visible that loyalty is everything, talent is nothing.
And do you, I mean, you three filmmakers, do you still apply, I mean, for these funds, or it makes no sense at all for you?
Me, I don't, so I have a short answer. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm planning to have this short film. I applied. There is a very famous singer in Hungary who won. I'm not. So I just had this conclusion that I shouldn't. Maybe with the feature film, but the problem is now in the film industry there is no direct. So you are always in the dark how you should do. There is always just rumors how you should apply for funding. So for example, now they say, okay, if you have a co-production partner, maybe then you can be there. But for example, I am in a very famous production company, and the main producer of this company just told me that she was in the film fund, and in the film fund they said that she shouldn't apply because she's in the list where it's, you know. So now in this case, obviously she would like to help me to make my feature film. So now we're going to find another producer who is not in this list. We're going to make another company which is unknown, let's say, and we are going with this company to the film fund without the name on the paper with her name. So, and then who knows? So it's basically you never know if you get funded or why you get funded, why you are not get funded. It's you try, but then you don't really have high hopes. Many stories happening that somebody started this development. They said, okay, maybe we send you to production, but in the last day they said, no, we are not going to send you into production. So thank you for your cooperation. So every there are, so yeah, basically what you know that you don't know nothing. And you are always have to try to find out what they think and how you should tell your story, because you think that they think like that. So maybe if I tell you like this, then I get funded. So, but after a while, it's really tiring and boring, and you just give up, and then you try to do it by yourself, or you try to make another idea which is not that complicated, or you try to adapt in a way that your ideas is not really what you want to do, but what you are capable to do with one camera and with one sound engineer person and in one location in one day. And then, but obviously this is not, it cannot continue for I don't know, for a whole life.
And Attila, how's it for you? I mean, do you still apply?
Well, I don't really like to apply anymore. I tell whenever a producer is interested in a project, I keep writing and making up projects, and I keep bringing them to producers, and usually they're quite enthusiastic to try to do them. But I tell everybody that it's not much point in applying, and we should start. We should go the other way around and see what kind of co-production partners can we dig up around Europe, because I think that's the only way for me. And that list that you mentioned, I think it's keep getting longer and longer, and the people who are most probably getting money with very good chances, it's like one or two people who are very close to the government. So everybody else now in Hungary have to think about how to raise other funds, and usually these are European Union funds. And that's the only thing I think you can do is that you start to write something that it's extremely cheap and interesting for the international audience, and try to raise funding for that. That's what I'm doing with all my projects I have right now.
And Dorka, how is it for you? Because you said definitely not. I mean, not applying. And what are your perspectives or plans? I mean, to get some kind of other funding.
What I said was I don't apply right now, and I haven't been since this happened to our university, but not even before, to be honest. And I don't know what brings. I mean, what will the future brings? But my perspective, I would like to make my diploma film somehow. Definitely not from government money. And of course, I would like to make a feature, but I'm very conflicted about whether, you know, to apply in the future if this regime stays or not. And right now, I think maybe rather not. But I don't want to say anything for certain. But right now, I have very bad feelings about this.
And how was it for your previous short films? I mean, how did they get funded, or they were absolutely no budget or low budget?
Most of my films had no budgets at all. But for example, Mother's Day, which I'm here with right now, it was funded by the film fund, but not like directly, but for the institution I was in, ELTE. So it was normative fundings that I was not qualified for, but eligible for, because I was in a filmmaker class and I had to make a film, and films need money. So that was the only film no, that was one of two films I made from a budget. One from this school money or film fund money by the school, through the school. And the other one I made under Free SFA. And we were able to get money from someone who didn't want to be named. And that's how, yeah.
Yeah, and how, I'm sorry.
That we, with Dorka, we had a very nice friendly disagreement about this. I really wanted to state that I think that this is still government money. This is still taxpayers' money. So even though they are not playing by the rules of democracy, I think everybody who is applying for government money is not asking for a favor or asking their money. They are very much entitled, the Hungarian filmmakers, to use that money, because that's why it is there. just because they are not giving it away the way they should, I think it shouldn't stop the filmmakers to try to apply for that. This is just something that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, but I don't disagree, and I wouldn't say that anyone should do the same as I do. I just have a bad feelings, but I agree with Attila. That's true.
Yeah, and just shortly another topic, because I consider your short film Mother's Day, what you can see in like 2 hours here, very special. In case of it's an LGBTQIA film, and now, I mean, you are not able anymore, I mean, to show that in Hungary because it's censored, or what is your opinion? I mean, years after the shooting, or because I think it's very special.
About whether if it would be possible to show it now or not.
Yeah, or just generally. I mean, years. When did you shoot the film? Sorry.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Yeah. So, have you considered it? I mean, back then, as a okay, it's hard, and I'm shooting on an LGBTQIA topic, or.
No, that was not intentional at all. Yeah, right now we have this law about. To be honest, I don't really know what is it about. But if they want, they can give me trouble for this, and they can ban this. But so far it didn't happen because I think it's just a short film. But yeah, you are right, because most probably right now I wouldn't be able to do this from government money. So to be honest, back then the only lucky thing was that it was through the school, so I didn't have to apply with a project, because it was one amount of money that the school just got, and they just split it between us. So I didn't have to write a synopsis or anything beforehand. Yeah. So did I answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And what do you think about the Hungarian incubator program? Because it's dedicated for young filmmakers, and they got support.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. So, for example, there is. I can give you an example like Borbála Nagy, who is
the curator of the Hungarian focus of the festival.
She's the curator of this program. She's a very talented filmmaker, and if you are going to this program, so basically the program is that they select every year 10 projects, and then they develop it for half a year, and then after half a year you have a first draft, let's say, and in a pitch forum they pick 5. There is a jury which pick 3 or 4, and there is an audience which pick 1. And then these 5 films will get funded about 200,000 euros, which is quite good. Never, yeah, absolutely. But they doesn't your quality as a filmmaker or a film director is not count. That's the problem. So for example, there are really talented filmmakers who already proved with their films, like Borbála Nagy. Probably you saw her film. She won one of these big prizes here in Germany. And she was rejected because her topic is not uplifting. What does it mean, So this, I mean, the program is good. It's a good possibility, but to reject a plan or this idea with this thing that this is not uplifting enough, or we need more happy films, or we don't want to see films which is about problems, then you consider the whole program is not in the right track. So, yeah.
But is the political pressure as big?
I mean it's really hard to say yes, it's political pressure, because it's too big word to name such a thing like this, like political pressure. No, I don't think so. I mean, many times politics give you some kind of advice how you should act, but it's always your decision as a decision maker if you follow this or you go against. And a lot of decision makers just feel that they should say this, because if they not, maybe they get trouble. So they always choose the easier way and not getting conflict with big guys up there.
Laszlo wanted to say.
Yeah. I was silent for so long. I think that not uplifting enough is a very important kind of expression, and it's not new. In the good old dark days, I mean the real dark days, propaganda served to tell people what to think, and the new way is to tell people not to think at all. So what you said about the not uplifting topics, in the theater, many years ago, as long as 15 or almost 20 years ago, this populist government, when they were not even in power, but they occupied all the municipalities and changed the leaders of the theaters back in 2006, I believe. They put a big sign on their papers, on the roofs of the theater and everywhere. Now we have to establish the theater of hope, meaning no problems, no dark matters, nothing. The theater of hope, just like the uplifting things. And the important thing is to suggest people, you shouldn't think, you shouldn't deal with the problems, you shouldn't deal with anything that needs a solution or involves any kind of responsibility from your part or the other part. And I think that is very important. So it's not a political pressure in the sense of that, you should stand on this side or the other. This is rather that, and that is the dominant cultural political tendency now in Hungary. And of course, in a way, it's more dangerous than the old school propaganda, because that really is a laughing stock after a while when you are told what to think. People without, don't tell me what to think, but people are more ready to accept the suggestion, you shouldn't think at all.
And Leventátin and Dorka, what are your current themes or topics? I mean, what are you working on? Are they uplifting topics or political? Or
Yeah, sure. It's comedy. No, I mean, I always interested in social issues or in the social society dysfunctions, and I'm at the moment, because I'm from the countryside, I'm more involved in this in the countryside. It's really like the pyramid. If you go smaller and smaller places, the pyramid is more and more stronger. So in the top. So yeah, it's a social drama. Let's say about a 17-year-old boy. I don't know. I don't want to pitch it.
Yeah, obviously my thinking turned somewhat political after what happened with our university. I am writing a script about a person. It's based on a true story, who had to deal with a quite similar situation, but all by himself. And I went to made some interviews with him, and I'm trying to write his story as a fiction film. And I am quite. I really hate to write, so I always think about 2 or 3 stories at the same time. So when I really get in a fight with one of the stories, I can always cheat her with the 2 other stories that I have, and so there are different topics. Not all of them. Only one of them is political. The other ones are just the same old dark stories I love.
Right now, I'm working on my diploma film project but it's in a very early phase. It's about a guy who works as a circus clown and really obsessed with beautiness, but he also has a tendency for sexual destruction. So I couldn't say it's a very, very uplifting topic, or I could, but it wouldn't be true. So.
Yeah, I mean, with the short film, it's a funny story. It's written by a novelist, writer, Hungarian, Adam Bodor. And it's a very funny story that a man going into a restaurant and closing the restaurant without a reason. It's a really short story. It's kind of reflecting. I was wanted to do it before this whole situation, what Laszlo described, but it's quite the same. I mean, they had a reason, or they say they have a reason why they did it, but obviously they didn't have this reason. I mean, who take the university, and this guy who is going to this restaurant, he also just there and closing it and eat the cookies in the end.
And one question regarding the politics, because in the next April there's going to be the new Hungarian elections, and of course we are a pessimistic country, but who knows what's going to happen? And do you have like any expectation? I mean, if the government won't stay, I don't know. Then I mean, what can change, or will things rapidly change, or I mean, do you have like any fantasies or expectations regarding that?
Well, I really don't want to fantasize either ways. Obviously, we have worries and hopes, but what's the good thing about the Free SFA Society? If we do it right, and if all the wonderful people and organizations helping us make it possible, finally there is something we can actually do. Because it's really what really pulls you down is that you feel helpless and lonely when something like this happens to your country. But what I learned from our students mainly was that we are not alone, and we are able to create forms that can go very peacefully and very intelligently, can just say no to all the anti-democratic stuff that is going on in the country right now.
In this wonderful tune of Theatre of the Hope, let me give you a list of our collaborators. It's Ludwigsburg, Germany, Salzburg and Vienna in Austria, the Warsaw Theatre University, and a small academy in Versio, Switzerland. And with them, we are planning to do something. And following what Attila said, and that I think may give us some hope far beyond the elections in Hungary, is that these partner institutions plus the other supporting partners, CEU, they expressed very, very clearly that they don't want to help us. They don't regard this as a help. They think this is collaboration for the good of the continent, for Europe. And I think if this is not a European project, then what is? And I think this they realized, all those partners realized, that what's happening in Hungary could happen anywhere, anytime. It is happening in Poland, but there are dark clouds in Austria and other countries too. And they all realized, partly learning from our example, that we should get rid of this dependence on national governments. And I think that could help film people, theater people, university people to unite forces and build something across borders and across political barriers, etc., etc. And I'm not being overly positive or optimistic. On the contrary, I'm not very optimistic about the situation in Hungary, and therefore all my hopes are in Europe and in European collaborations.
And regarding the future plans of the society, of course, it's a longer way. But the question is, if that's the plan, is if you are planning like former like university-based education, which we had at the university, like several classes, 5 years along, so traditional acting education and film directing, stage directing, different dramaturgical classes, set design, and whatever, etc. But I mean, there were several classes for, either for BA and master program, but there's diploma programs for 5 years. So are these your future goals as well, or just the short-term education?
Now we have short-term educational programs apart from the diploma saving thing, but these short-term programs plus 19 classes of the old university came out. That's a big number. It's a huge number. But I don't. If we are clever enough, if we are good enough, talented enough, we are not go back to what we had before, but use this opportunity to create something new that is far more about crossing borders, not only national borders, but borders of genres and disciplines, etc., etc. So we could and we should create a 21st century educational, non-institutional institution, I believe. But this is the very beginning of the road, and not everyone is agreeing with me. But I think we shouldn't go back to what we had before. We should go forward and make our secret dreams come true.
I don't know what time is it, but I would like to open the discussion. So if any one of you is having any questions, then please raise your hands and we're going to give you a microphone. Don't be shy. Okay.
Do you meet each other like once a month to plan what you want to do in the future? For me, it sounds like the state was stupid enough to give you strong pictures, which helped. And now I'm thinking like, okay, it was kind of a revolution, but now the students are splitting to different places. How do you stay together? Because I think it's important to stay together, even after all this, what's happening.
Well, that's a quite sharp and painful question you just stated. We are very much into reinventing the structure of the society right now, and the way it has been done with the root-grass democracy during the occupation of the university buildings, most probably that cannot go on anymore. We have to legally and for the sake of the work getting done, we have to organize ourselves to some kind of a representational democracy, most probably. So we are making efforts of coming together once a month, because we do agree with you that it's extremely important. But so legally, the society to be able to work, we have to organize a little bit differently right now. So yeah, we have to make efforts of meeting, because it's not as natural as it used to be.
What makes it even more difficult is that stupid virus that stops us from meeting. And now this is the third wave of staying apart, but we do our best. As we said before, we don't have a home as such, so that we had our old battered school, a stupid infrastructure, but that was ours 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and that's not the case now. So your question is very relevant. We try and find a way of creating a communal space. We are not there yet, but try the best to involve people in communal activities as much as possible.
What is with your old home? Is there a new leader now, and are some teachers stayed and they follow the big guys now?
Teachers of the Hope, yes.
Okay. Okay. And some students as well? Okay.
Less than half of the students, maybe 1/3 of the students, Petra, you may know the numbers, maybe 1/3 of the students stayed, most of them because they thought they were not safe enough to leave the old school. But the new leadership accepted loads of new students. So now the majority of the students learning in our old institutions are new students taught by new teachers, and I don't want to talk about those teachers.
Yeah, but the buildings are empty right now. It's sold. But I mean, the new leader is not there with the new students.
They use the old buildings, except for this building, including the theater, I mean the student theater. This building is now empty because it became so much a symbol that they had to get rid of this symbol. So the new leaders claim that this building will be given back to the church, where it never belonged to, by the way. But this is now empty. It couldn't stay a place of pilgrimage anymore. But the rest of the buildings they use for the new education, the new classes.
Yeah, and sorry, just 1 second. I see your question, and I think it's very important for the old building. I mean, that was the old theater building, because the school had, or the university had, 3 different buildings: one for film education, one for theater education, and one for the actors and actresses, with many rehearsal rooms. And this was the main building for theater, and with 2 stages and classroom stages, and one place for the students to sleep, so some kind of collegium, and a students' hotel as well. So it was not just like a university building, but a very social building with a long history and with their own ghosts, I would say. Yeah, absolutely. So it was a super special building.
The question I had was, because there's a new student body and also like the remaining teachers and then the new board, what are the policies that they implemented on the new, basically like this new school that they are now making, basically, that do you have any insight on what they're doing, basically? What are the differences, or what are like the new rules that they implemented? Do you have any and how are they selling that to these new students?
Well, that's the official communication we see of the university. Is mainly what you might imagine. It's they emphasize how good this change of rules is working, and how the change of the structure of the university is good for everyone, and how much more money they are getting right now, and they can build with that last part is at least true. And I don't talk much to students or teachers remaining there, so I really don't want to say anything, because I don't know what's going on there. Specifically, what I know is that their communication is mainly about us being hopeless people teaching political propaganda to their students, and right now it's not like that anymore, because we didn't let proper Christian values come into the building, and now it's there. So that's all I know about there.
But that implies that there's like from their perspective, there's a very religious angle to the discussion.
Some people like to emphasize that we did not mainly religion, but we didn't let. They say we did not let enough conservative thoughts flourish inside the university walls. I really don't think I should defend that. It's definitely not true. You know, it's a typical way how authoritative governments work. they accuse you of the exact thing that they are doing.
Yeah.
We don't, and it may be our fault, but we don't really communicate with them. We don't try and find the ways of talking to them. There are some news coming out. There's one thing sure. As a very small country, a very small culture, so most people know about most other people and their talents. The huge amount of new teachers, among them there are a very, 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 very few with a real background of either art or education. I know it's not very nice from me to say, but in most cases, again, loyalty is more important than talent. So that is one thing we kind of know. The other thing is that the employees of the new leadership, people in the offices, etc., they are, and there we have our experience because many of us had to communicate with the old offices and bureaus. They are absolutely inept to do their jobs. Regardless of any political views or any propaganda, they are just not. They have just no idea how to run a school, how to administer things. That is definitely a disaster. But yes, the propaganda coming from the old school under the new leadership is that eventually they got rid of those liberals. Eventually, finally, now through patriotic and Christian values are, whatever. But see, we don't want to fight. I think. I mean, you may disagree, but I don't think we want to shoot back or fight them. It's rather sad. So I don't feel any victory when I hear that it's not working. But apparently it's not really working. We'll see. We'll see in 2 years' time. We'll see the new students coming out. I hope that for the next generation there will be no tension between students of them and students of us. I only hope that, because I really don't want these tensions survive the regime, etc., etc. But the news so far are not very,
I'm just curious. I heard about a documentary being made within the community by Asi and Matti and many others. And I would be just curious to hear about that, because I've seen the one on Partisan, but as far as I know, many people felt that one didn't really represent them in a way they want to be seen. So I'm very curious to see the film that's actually coming from within the Free SFA community. And also, I'm just curious because, of course, the most important thing is funding or money. Well, what are the other sort of practical ways to support the movement?
Well, we have a Patreon site. That's the easiest way, or we have a bank account, which is us up on the site, freesfa.hu. But about the documentary, there's the first 30 minutes ready, and I think it will be presented in Berlin in the beginning of December. I don't know if I remember the date correctly. Maybe it's the 7th. Don't you know, Dorka, where is going to be a panel discussion? And okay. Yeah, it will be on the site.
How about in Budapest?
I don't know what I cannot. I'm not on the crew of the documentary, but on the site and on Facebook, most probably you will be able to follow. If we stay in touch, we will let you know if it's happening. It's an enormous amount of footage. They are still shooting occasionally. So it's pretty hard to tell in what form and when will it be public.
But they have over 1,000 hours of footage.
Yeah, and who are the filmmakers for this? I mean, who are this they?
Oh yeah, another day. The documentary filmmakers who were studying at our class, former and present filmmakers, they just instinctively started to shoot, and I think even the director is grassroots democracy itself. I think it's like 20 people not deciding who is the director. They have to vote each and every decision they're making about the film, which professionally...
They are actually claiming that this is an experiment of community documentary filmmaking. So it's not just accidental. They said, let's try to experiment with this, which makes the whole process even more difficult, but maybe much more interesting too.
Yeah, it's a crazy endeavor. I mean, most of the time I don't even agree with myself, not to mention 20 other people. You know, it's crazy, but that's why it's really interesting.
Yeah, and about donation and support. So you're financing the Free SFA Society through, I mean, supporting from other societies or from private persons or international partners, or how can you finance, I mean, the whole education?
That's, yes. Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Do we have any more questions? Okay, and can I have a time check, because I don't know. I mean, okay. Okay. And do you have any more, I mean, feelings or thoughts you haven't shared here? Because there is a free space for that. I mean, yeah, no, of course. But I mean, regarding the topic, something very important, very uplifting, very political. No, okay. Yeah, then thank you all for your participation, and thank you, dear audience. And as I told you, you can watch the short films in Forum Levante and Dorca at 6 o'clock or 6:30? At 6 o'clock here, yeah. Okay, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.